Still rolling. Well, welcome back, internets. Thanks for stopping in to my channel. If it looks like I am not sailing, it's true. I'm not sailing today or in the last few days. Just been trying to get done with a few projects here, namely my trolling motor for my dinghy and the speed controller, which I've ordered and just got the part. So here's what I've done. So you can see what I've done here. I've added a whole bunch of stuff to my little ammo box. So I've got the two Ryobi batteries in there, wired together in series like before. Comes up through this wire, goes into the fancy new speed controller that I ordered, and that goes straight into the Newport 86-pound 24-volt trolling motor, which is set up over there. But what's this, you might ask? This little piece right here. Okay, well, that provides power to this other piece over here. So this is a receiver. It receives the signal from a controller. This is my new controller. This is what's going to control the actual throttle of the outboard motor. So by pulling the trigger, hopefully it'll go and stop. I don't know how long it's going to last, but it was super cheap, and the only alternative I could find that was like more marine or whatever was like hundreds of dollars, and it was just basically a cable driven trigger, and I wanted something that was completely wireless. So if this all works, then what I'll do is I'll basically take it all apart and waterproof everything and make sure it lasts as long as I can, and then probably just order another one, because it literally was like 30 bucks for this controller and for the receiver right there. That little red thing right there receives the message from this thing. The little receiver requires 5 volts, and everything else, as you know, is working off of 24 volts coming in from right here. So what I had to do is buy this little converter, which takes the 24 volts and turns it into 5 volts just to power the receiver. And that's pretty much it. Go ahead and turn it on for you, see if it works. All right, so yeah, first things first, you take the batteries and you plug it into the battery pack itself. You see a flashy blue light over here. So I turn this on. Makes a pretty little beeping now. Now that's a solid blue light. And I got a solid, you probably can't see it, but there's a solid green light on the receiver over here. Now if I give it a little gas, the propeller moves. Ta-da! The nice thing about this motor, or this controller rather, is I have a lot more control over it, meaning I can get it really, really slow. And I can set it, and if I hit this red button, I can set a speed controller on the actual controller itself, so it stays on by itself, and then I can incrementally make it faster, slower, that sort of thing, all with this little controller. And the next thing is to test it all out in the water, see how it does. But I'm not going to do that today, I'll do that tomorrow. But so far it's a success. This little piece right here, the speed controller, gets really, really hot. So I'm hoping that's going to be okay up there. All right, well, catch my breath here. All right, so it's the next day, and obviously I've got the dinghy inflated. I've got the trolling motor that I modified yesterday hooked up. I'm ready to go. Just got on board and brought the battery pack down. So what we're gonna do now is test this thing out. We're going to test a couple different things. We're going to test the range, we're going to test the power, see if we can actually you know, use it at a much lower throttle setting, and we're also going to test how many amps it's drawing during all those different things. I just realized that I forgot the most important part back on the boat, which is the throttle control. So I'll be back. Okay, so I'm back with the most important piece, throttle control, and I think that probably illustrates One of the biggest weaknesses of this system is that there are lots of little pieces, and each one of these pieces is made out of cheap plastic in China with components that are really cheap. So I don't think that this is going to last forever. It's more of a proof of concept than anything else, and I can do my best to kind of waterproof things and maintain things, but ultimately what I was looking for was a remote controller that would allow me to control this thing wirelessly. It's not so important here on the dinghy, but ultimately what I want to do is put the system on the back of the sailboat, and not with just one motor, but with two motors on both sides, one on either side of the sailboat. And what that will let me do is to, I think, basically replace the diesel engine on this thing with electric outboards. And then I want to basically use the diesel inboard as a generator to power a bigger battery bank, and just have electric propulsion system as my main kind of propulsion system besides sailing, obviously. And with a controller like this, you are able to mix the two signals between the two motors, so you could actually control the direction of the boat via a remote control thing, which I think would be really, really useful as a single sailor or solo sailor. Like when you're approaching like a mooring buoy or something like that, you could theoretically be standing at the bow of the boat and have full control over you know, forward and reverse, and actually steering too, because you can use them to steer each other, the thrusts of the two motors. So that's what this is all about. This is a work in progress, and I'm trying to work up to the implementing this on the back of the sailboat, but that's where I'm headed. So without further ado, let us plug everything in and see if this thing actually works. So anyway, down here what I'm doing, open up my battery pack. You can see all the guts in there. First thing I want to do is plug in the actual batteries to the pack. Plug that in, got a little flashy blue light right there, and a green blinky light right there, and that means that it's not connected to any kind of controller. So now I'm going to turn this guy on, and the green light stays solid, and so does the blue light. So now we know that we have connection. And now let us see if we move anywhere when I give it some juice. We do. We have liftoff. All right, so let me, here, I also want to check on navionics, like start a little route and maybe get some speed and whatever. So I've started a navionics routing thing, and it should be measuring now where we go and how fast we get there. Just gonna let the wind blow me off here. And now I'm heading in the right direction. I'm gonna give it a little juice. Just a little bit of juice. It's drawing 1 amp. This is perfect. Oh man, this is so good. Nice and slow, easy to control. Let's see if we can get back to the boat. We're going into the wind just a little bit, but again, we're pulling 1 amp. That's pretty incredible. Nice and slow, totally in control. This is great. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to speed it up just a little bit. Let's find a good speed for dinghy speed, right about here maybe. Complete failure. We are drifting. I gotta need the paddles. Alright, so not as easy as I hoped. We are now like just drifting into somebody else's dock, and the motor has no power. So I'm gonna come to a stop here and then see if I can troubleshoot what's going on. Okay, that is super hot. The speed controller is ridiculously hot, so you can't see what I'm talking about. This right here is the speed controller that I just added, so that's what's actually like controlling the amount of voltage that's going into the motor. So that is a bad sign, ladies and gentlemen. It's not a very expensive component, but that's the fail point at the moment. Everything else was working really, really good. The actual trigger was the perfect amount of sensitive. Okay, it's cooled down enough for me to touch. I'm going to plug it in and see if it boots back up again. So, controller is still on. I'm plugging it back in. Interesting. All right, let's see if I can demonstrate. When I give it a little juice, there's a little click and a beeping noise. Sounds like a kind of a shorted out circuit or something. And it just gives me this little light, which leads me to believe that I've burnt this thing out. That component right there is the weakest link. It's a shame too, because that's what I have been waiting for like 3 weeks to come in the mail. This guy right here, the speed controller, I think I just have to find something a bit more hefty duty. This one says it's rated to 860 amps. That's what it says on the side. I don't know if you can see in there. It says 860 amps on this little thing, but it didn't come with any kind of directions. Yeah, no directions, no website for you to check the directions on anything. So I think I've got a fried speed controller. Fried speed controller, and basically game over at this point until I can replace that little speed controller. So that puts everything on hold, but it's good to know. The good news is that I think that system with this trigger, once I can figure out how to make the speed controller work properly, I think this is a great system, because I have a lot more control over the power of the motor. You saw how I could just I could barely creep along with it, which is exactly what I wanted. So okay, back to the drawing board. So I made it 15 meters, if anybody was interested, on Navionics. 15 meters. Great. I forgot how hard rowing is. Oh, I row when you can push. Home again. I didn't get far. All right, I'm gonna leave this one right here. Sort of a defeat, also kind of a minor victory, in that I found that this little control system works great, but either way I've got to find a different electronic speed controller. This is a brushed 24-volt electric motor on the outboard trolling motor, so that's what I need to find a speed controller for. I'm gonna get on the internet and see if I can find one. Hopefully it'll get here in sooner than 3 weeks, which is how long that one took. Yeah, gotta find, if anybody knows where I can source a decent 24 volt electronic speed controller that is controlled by a RC radio controller, that would be awesome. Please send me the link in the description below. And just want to say thank you to all the subscribers and all those folks that have been commenting on the content. I really appreciate it. It's helping me keep going, and those likes and those comments help a lot as far as the YouTube gods are concerned. So thank you very much for that, and please keep it up. If you haven't subscribed, please do so. And if you'd like to check out some more behind the scenes stuff and help on Patreon, I encourage you to do so as well. So thanks very much for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.